This Baseplan Presents video features a simple way to link asset finance costs to your rental equipment, focusing on the following areas: linking equipment to an asset, viewing the purchase, finance and depreciation information, setting up finance against an asset, generating the finance payment schedule, drilling into the associated asset data.
Okay, so I'm currently logged into Baseplan Enterprise. And so what we want to look at, how we can set up those finance agreements against our particular assets, whether we're selling the asset to somebody or whether we're renting the asset to somebody. Now, we can go directly into the asset module and start typing in the number that it's been associated with. We can go directly and start looking up the finance agreement as well. Another way that we can actually find the asset and then create the finance agreement is actually by going through the equipment management module. So I can actually type in the equipment number that this is linked to. So remember, when we rent a piece of equipment or we sell it, it gets created as a piece of equipment, and then we can maintain the rental revenue and the maintenance costs against that piece of equipment. So let's say, for instance, that we've got this Caterpillar item in here, 5 for instance, and it's given us all the information about the equipment, which we've looked at in a previous video. But what we want to look at in this section is over here on the far right. So we can see here that this particular equipment is linked to this asset number. Now I can copy this and then go into my asset module and paste it in, or I can just double click on this area and it will take me directly to that particular asset master record. So you can see here it's taking me through, and behind this screen is the equipment master record. And now we've got the asset master record. So we can see the purchase date, the cost, the relevant general ledger account combination in the GL groups, the depreciation method, who we purchased it from, what the purchase order number is, and the receipt, all that information, which we'll drill into in a little bit later in this video. Now, what we want to do is to set up the finance against this. We want to go up to views on the top right, and we're going to go down to finance. So this will allow us to bring up any current finance agreements against this particular record. If there is none, it'll be a blank screen like this, so nothing will be filled out. To kick things off, all we need to do is hit add new, and we can type in our loan number. So we can say whatever the loan number is, the finance number that it is in there. And let's say, for instance, you aren't happy with that name, like maybe you want to call it finance. I can actually write in here and change the caption of this if I have the right security. Let's get back to this. So then we want to choose our vendor. So we can say it's Caterpillar, for instance. Maybe we're buying it directly from the OEM, or maybe we're getting it from the bank, or maybe we're getting it from a particular finance company. We can choose the date that's going to be agreed upon. So maybe we can say it's today. And so what we can do is we do 0D. So that'll pull through today's date. And I can say it's going to be a 2-year agreement. So I can do 2Y, 2 years. We can put in the rate for the interest. So I'm going to say 2%. And I can set the date that the agreement's going to start. Now I can type in the date manually. I can put in the 2D or 2 year, or I can just double click on the field and then choose the particular date in here. So maybe it's the 1st of June. It's going to kick things off. We can choose the number of payments that's going to be associated with this finance agreement as well. So we can say maybe it's 24 payments on a monthly basis, but we can choose weekly, fortnightly, whatever the agreement is on the terms. We can then choose what the taxes is linked to this as well, because maybe you get it from a different interstate, and there might be different tax rules around here, so we might need to calculate it manually, or might want to use something like Vertex to pull that information in. So we can say it's tax exempt to begin with, and we can fix it up a bit later on. We can also set up the different finance types. So maybe it's a particular lease, or maybe we're getting it in finance from a particular company, or maybe we're actually putting it out on a long-term rental and want to have that information stored in here, so we can look at what the remaining finance amount is and how much revenue we've brought in and what the current value of the asset is, and compare that information. And all we want to do is hit save. So that gives us our header information. And what we want to do is we want to add some details down here that are linked to the particular asset record. So what I do is I go edit and then click on this edit button down here. And we're going to type in the asset number up here. So 8308. Now we want to put in here the total amount that we're getting financed. Now, you might be financing the full 275,000, or might be a smaller amount because you've purchased something up front. So I can put in the full amount if I want to. And I can say what I think the residual value is going to be at the end of the term of this finance agreement. So maybe it's depreciating at 20% or something around there, year on year. So I can say it's going to come down to maybe 175, which is a round number. and what the payment amount is going to be on each of the monthly payments. So I can say maybe it's going to be $11,000 a month that we're paying. And if there's going to be a particular payout amount at the end of the agreement as well. I can hit save and save at the top, and you can see the status is still in open. So what we want to do is we want to take that information, and maybe we want to have additional pieces of equipment on here that are adding up our total finance amount in here. And then once all that information is added, all we do is go up to actions, and we can then import the payment schedule from the company that we're getting the finance from, or we can get Baseplan to create the payment schedule based upon the information that we just added. So what I do is I hit create payment schedule. That'll then post the record, and I can go up to actions, and now I can view the payment schedule. So then that will show me each of the payments and when they're due, the principal amount within here, the interest against those payments as well, and any information in here that we can sort of pull through, and then eventually potentially Federal Security export this out, looking at the balances on there. Maybe you want to recreate the payment schedule because we've renegotiated our terms, whatever it might be in that scenario, and looking at the remaining payments in here as well. Now, once we go back here, we can also set up whether this particular vendor is going to allow us to create those payments and invoices automatically within the Baseplan General Ledger module and create those journals, or we can set it up as a manual thing. So at the end of the month, someone needs to manually go through and create these different transactions. But you can see here where the real value comes is once you've got this payment schedule in here, and you've got all the different interest and transactions, you can then start comparing things like your original cost. You can look at your depreciation, so what your total value of your asset is now based upon the depreciation schedule. You can look at the interest that you've paid on a particular finance agreement. You can look at the revenue that you've got against this particular asset, and also the maintenance costs as well, and then pull all that information together and start reporting on it. Maybe you want to quickly go through and look at other information. So we saw before you can double click on the equipment and go to that record, but maybe you want to go back and check this particular order number or the purchase order number. I just double click on that number, and it takes me directly to that particular purchase order. Maybe if I want to go back and look at who actually receipted the goods, I double click on the receipt, and it takes me to who actually receipted the goods. So there's quite a bit that we can actually set up here and try and automate, rather than managing the assets in one system, managing the finance in another system, and then trying to pull that information together to accurately look at your profitability on your different assets, and then where you're actually at in terms of the duration of the payback. And that just about wraps up today's session. If you do have any ideas on future topics or want to provide feedback, it'd be great for you guys to leave comments in the section below. And I hope to see everyone in the next Baseplan Presents session.